In 2014, Jamaica passed all 3 IMF tests,
The program is on track.
made wide-ranging changes to strengthen the tax system,
No one should expect that it can be business as usual.
and finalized the public sector action plan to implement the transformation program.
This transformation requires us to have greater impact in serving our clients, while at the same time reducing costs, optimizing efficiency, and ensuring value for the available resources.
It was all about crafting and implementing programs to reform the economy and place it on a path to prosperity and growth, acting on strategic priority number 1.
Overall, policy implementation under the program remains strong. All quantitative performance targets, indicative targets, and structural benchmarks were met.
That became a familiar statement in 2014. The IMF's executive board confirmed that Jamaica passed all 3 tests up to September 2014, resulting in a perfect track record under the extended fund facility since May 2013. As at December 2014, Jamaica received a total of $551.2 million under the agreement, and by all indications, the country is on track to pass its 7th test for the quarter ending December 2014. Both the managing director and her deputy at the Multilateral agency gave Jamaica high praises when they visited the country in June and October. The international community was also pleased with the country's determination to execute its economic reform program, evidenced by Jamaica securing an $800 million bond on the capital markets in July.
The fact that the international community is once again lending to Jamaica, and not just short term, but 11 years, is significant and says something about their confidence in our policies.
On top of that, Jamaica's net international reserves stood at approximately $2.2 billion at the end of September, and inflation for the January to October period was about 8.2%.
Inflation is expected to hover around this level for the rest of the fiscal year.
As for growth figures, the Jamaican economy grew by 1.6% in the first 3 months of the year and 1.2% in the April to June quarter. The Planning Institute of Jamaica PIOJ, however, reported a 0.8% contraction for the July to September period due mainly to drought conditions. But with growth projected for a number of sectors, particularly agriculture and hotels and restaurants,
we expect real GDP for the October to December 2014 quarter to grow within the range of 0.5% to 1.5%.
As government pursued a credible macroeconomic program in 2014, there was also support from multilateral agencies. The World Bank approved a new country partnership strategy in May, which will run until 2017, allowing Jamaica to receive a $42 million loan for an integrated community development project. There was also approval in July for a sum of $37 million to continue the rollout of the public sector transformation project. A $50 million agreement was also signed with the World Bank in September to implement the Foundations for Competitiveness and Growth project in a bid to strengthen the business environment.
It will provide resources for private businesses, private firms to undertake feasibility or pre-feasibility studies in relation to strategic investment projects that they may be embarked upon.
Jamaica also received $11.5 billion from the European Union in May for development assistance over the next 2 to 5 years, and in August, the EU provided $1.7 billion more in grant funding to support the sugar industry. 2 loan agreements valued at $140 million were also signed with the Inter-American Development Bank in February 2014.
Among the central tax reform objectives is the strengthening of tax administration, improved rates of compliance,
And so in March 2014, it became mandatory for 3 main categories of persons to electronically file their tax returns. Self-employed persons also started using a single SO3 form to file their tax returns. And the government introduced an employment tax credit for unregulated companies and some categories of self-employed persons. Tax Administration Jamaica also began a pilot project for electronic funds transfer to pay income tax and pensioners' refunds directly into the bank accounts of customers. And on the legislative side of things, Parliament passed fiscal rules legislation in March to improve transparency and ensure a sustainable budget by putting a cap on what the country can spend.
The rules alone won't guarantee, but they represent the passage of these enhancements in the legislation will at least demonstrate that we recognize that there's a problem and that we are committed to a solution.
There is, however, an escape clause subject to parliamentary approval that allows the fiscal rules to be suspended if there is a major shock in the economy. Meanwhile, both houses of Parliament passed the Tax Penalties Harmonization Act and the Tax Collection Miscellaneous Provisions Act to improve tax collection and address tax avoidance and evasion. And in keeping with the omnibus tax regime, which came into effect in January, government lowered the import duty on some products. The import duty on solar panels and the 20% common external tariff on smartphones were also removed. Creating more opportunities for businesses to grow and develop was also part of the Finance Ministry's agenda for the year 2014. The Development Bank of Jamaica, DBJ, set a $9 billion lending target for the financial year, $3 billion of which was for micro, small and medium-sized enterprises. Up to October 2014, over 4,700 loans were approved, valuing $2.25 billion. 8 proposals from fund managers were pre-qualified for entry into the Jamaica Venture Capital Fund. A panel of investors was organized to provide expert advice, and legal advisors began the development of a toolkit to guide the legal and regulatory changes to develop Jamaica's venture capital industry.
Which will provide access for all stakeholders to the standardized documents and the guidance as to the international best practices to be followed in undertaking venture capital transactions.
DBJ also rolled out a $13 million voucher program to provide technical assistance to about 85 MSMEs. As at November 2014, 17 vouchers valuing $3.4 million were issued to 14 MSMEs. In 2014, government could not be fiscally prudent or pursue a credible macroeconomic program without continuing the public sector transformation program.
Transformation must also involve a positive attitude towards quality and timely service delivery, and productivity must be at a constantly high level across the service.
Cabinet finalized an action plan to roll out the program, and initiatives continued to make the public sector more efficient and customer-friendly. Among them was the August launch of the automated system for customs data, ASICUDA. The $4 million system will streamline the process involved in the transshipment of goods.
The benefits are not restricted to that. The simplification of the process, the reduction of the processing time that flows from it is an important part. We need the additional revenues which can flow.
The government also began the process of merging the Jamaica Racing Commission and the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Commission. While those talks continue, the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act was amended in May to make provisions for online gaming and mobile betting, while implementing a fixed penalty system for those who breach the regulations. The enterprise team overseeing the divestment of K-Manistrack Limited also completed its analysis of the entity, and the plans were announced for the National Contracts Commission to be separated from the Office of the Contractor General with its own office and staff, and then renamed the Public Procurement Commission. The Public Procurement Act 2014 was also tabled in Parliament in July. The year 2014 was a success for the government. By being financially responsible while embarking on a credible macroeconomic program, strategic priority number 1 was accomplished. The mission will continue in 2015 to help Jamaica achieve Vision 2030, the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business.